Hi everyone, it's Rax. The Diablo 4 Season 11 PTR released about half a day ago, and we blasted it for many hours, and we tried pretty much all the new changes. And like always, we're just going to give you my blatantly honest feedback on everything and tell you if it interests me at all, and if I think it's going to bring people back to the game in December, and if D4 is finally fixed or not. So let's jump into everything right after a quick word from this video's sponsor. Guys, today's video is brought to you by Rocket Money. We've done several campaigns for them in the past. They are a financial app that can help you cancel unwanted subscriptions, lower your bills, set up a budget, and they helped me immediately cancel a $200 per year payment that I didn't want. But after I did my last Rocket Money campaign, a content creator bigger than me sent me this message on Discord. Truthful message. I didn't fabricate this. I did block out their name. And they essentially said, I'm going to paraphrase here, they downloaded Rocket Money. They wanted to cut down on payments. They canceled a few, and they found out that they had been sending someone $1,000 a month since 2023, and they immediately had a heart attack. They didn't know what it was until they figured out that they had set up a payroll for the LLC for themselves to help with taxes, so they were paying themselves, so it was no big deal. But if this isn't the best advertisement for Rocket Money, I don't know what is, because it showed him there's $1,000 being removed out of his account every single month that he had to look into. If you'd like to try Rocket Money, go to rocketmoney.com/Raxxanterax. The link will be down below. You can download and try the app for free. And I really think it'll be worth it for you. Thank you so much to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to it. All right, let's start out with probably the meat and potatoes of the entire patch, which is the difficulty changes and the changes to healing and recovery. So it's no secret that in Diablo 4, I don't know if people notice this. I don't view it any other way. For most of the game, unless you get to the super end game and you're doing the pit, all you're essentially doing is just running forward and plowing everything, right? It's never a concern for me about, I never use potions. Once I have my armor capped and my resistance is capped, and if I'm running a sorcerer, I got my barrier. If I run a necro, I've got my minions. Everyone's got their little thing. Once I have that online, you just plow everything in the game, and it's essentially just a loot fiesta. Now, for me personally, that's fun, you know, in small, short doses, but that's not really why I like to play video games. But I am not everybody. There are a lot of people who just play games to relax. They come home from work. They don't want a ton of friction or challenge. They just want to relax, play an ARPG, slay some monsters, do a lot of damage, and get some loot, and log off as a way to relax. I absolutely understand that this is how a lot of people want to play. The issue that I would say with how severe Diablo 4 has went in this direction is there's no opportunity really to be challenged in this game unless you're, again, very deep in the pit. Where are you going to be challenged? If you follow any decent build from Maxroll or some other, good creator, you're going to win every time. And if you don't, I have no idea how you manage to lose. So another thing is Diablo 4, when you start the game, they literally have different difficulties for you to choose. Other games, a lot of other ARPGs don't really have this. You play on the difficulty that they give you and you just figure it out. So if Diablo 4 has difficulties that you can choose, then it probably makes sense that the base difficulty, normal, is very, very easy, or at least very playable by everybody. And then it really starts to ramp, right? Because it's your choice to level it up. And that it did feel different to me. And I played a lot of Diablo 4. I made a brand new Necro and I turned it to hard instead of normal. That's what she said. And it seemed far more difficult than before. I went to Helltide and the monsters, they were ambushing me more. I noticed it all the time. They just appear and they just start attacking me. The affixes were more deadly. I almost died like 100 times. I think I did die once in Helltide. I just couldn't get away. With the fewer potions and the recovery changed. It's weird because the recovery is much more important now, which seems like a nerf because you almost never cared about it before. But it's also a buff, kind of, because the life on hit rolls and the life per second rolls are now much higher in magnitude. So when you would actually build your character to have these things, then it made it much, much easier. It's kind of like in Mega Bonk. If you guys played Mega Bonk last month, where you finally get some life steal, where if you get hit, you can just get your life back and you don't really worry. But before then, you're like terrified to take a hit from anything because you could die at any moment. It kind of felt like that, which I honestly think at its base is a much better change. And for all the people that are worrying, oh God, the game is so hard. I actually had someone say that they sat in town, they made a fully decked out mythic unique character, and then they went to the end game and they were very disappointed because they felt very weak and they're not going to play anymore. And I was like, well, really? How weak did you feel? Because I did the same thing, except for instead of spending hours crafting a perfect character in town, I spent like 10 minutes on it, just slapping it together. I purposely didn't want it to be absolutely perfect. I just wanted it to be like a good representation of what I would see. And then I walked into the pit, and the first thing I did was one of my hydras hit for like 500 million. And I'm just like, okay, I still murder everything ridiculously, and I cleared from the start of the pit all the way to pit and tower 45 easily, like just absolutely bulldozing it. And so I asked him, I had a dialogue with him on my stream. I said, what power level are you looking for here? Because I understand that for a long time we're used to running around at the speed of light and hitting for billions, trillions, quadrillions when the monsters have nowhere near that health. You're used to literally just insta erasing the screen, but I mean, we're still hitting for hundreds of millions. I mean, you probably hate to hear me say this. I still think it's way too much, but you're not satisfied with this level of god power? Like I don't know. I didn't understand that feedback. So that's much more strange to me than people saying, well, I don't want it to be super hard when I boot up my level 1 character. That makes way more sense than, wah, I'm sad that I can only hit for 500 million per Hydra head now. I don't know. It's going to be a contested change. It's definitely more difficult. Another thing that I did, by the way, on my playthrough is you start with 12. I started with 12 skill points, but I think that's only because I made my powerful character to try the tower first. I think the idea is you're not going to start with any skill points, which, by the way, I mean, on one hand, it was cool to start with however many 16 skill points and make a build and just be plowing right from the very start. But there's definitely something to be said from starting in the beginning with your little stick in your hand and you've got nothing, and building up and getting more powerful. Like, that journey, I think, is important. I think that journey is fun. So I actually had a lot more fun where I pretended I just didn't use those 12 skill points. And I built it up slowly. And then when I got my minions online, when I got my core skill online after a couple of levels, when I found my first weapon upgrade, it actually meant something to me. Whereas where you start with a full 16-point build against the first enemy that you see, how are you going to feel a sense of progression if you're already that strong? So I really like that change too. I feel like a lot of these changes are necessary. I know not everyone's going to like them. I think they're good for the game. I mean, you're here for my opinion, right? That's my opinion. Tempering. So in tempering, now you just get to pick the affix that you want, and you only get one affix. But now the rares, and I believe the legendaries, at least the rares, I don't know, they get one extra affix slot naturally on them. So you lose one temper, but you gain one affix on the item, which should, in theory, make the item chase a little bit more lucrative, which Diablo 4 needs more of that, so I'm on board with that. You still have to get the magnitude of the affix. So the affix might roll 15 to 18. You can re-roll it to try to fish for something close to 18. So it's not just literally giving you the perfect roll of what you want, but it's pretty deterministic. I found a bug. People said that it's been that way for a couple of seasons. When you temper something and you right click your next item to temper it, it'll fix on that category and it won't let you temper it until you close and reopen the window. Or if you take out the item and right click the category, then it will let you. I mean, there's no way any of these things should be happening, right? You just need to be able to right click your next item and temper it. So that's a bug that Blizzard will hopefully fix. I do think that this is probably better than the old system. I think in general, people will like this change. The problem with me for tempering is how am I going to feel excited about this? You get your sword, and I guess you could say you have to find the manual for it. I guess that's something. So I guess finding the manual is an exciting moment. But then you just go to the blacksmith and slap it on there. And that's the system. So it's just kind of one little extra step with no real interaction from the player other than rolling the magnitude from 15 to 18. Better than what we had. I'm never going to be excited at all to interact with tempering. It's just a step that I have to do to make my character now. So Masterworking has a very weird bug. We sat here in Paint with our calculator out for a while, but when it upgrades like the base affix, so like the damage roll for a weapon instead of the stats, and then at the highest level of Masterworking, which is 20, not 12, now it will upgrade one of your affixes to a greater affix. So in this way, it kind of makes the item hunt easier, because if you get one of the greater affixes that you need, you can just masterwork another critical one that you need up to a greater affix. But the tooltip doesn't seem to factor in the minimum value of the weapon, because I would have a 500 DPS sword, and then it has a display where it says start to upgrade your 350 DPS weapon, and I'm like, why in the world is it thinking that my weapon is 350 DPS when my weapon is actually 500 DPS? And the answer, after we messed around with it, is it's not considering the minimum value of the weapon. So I would definitely look at that, Blizzard. Is it a visual glitch? Is it a mathematical problem behind the scenes? Or maybe possibly I'm just not understanding it, but we sat there with Paint, we did the math. We think the DPS tooltip is correct on the item itself, and it seems to be wrong on the masterworking window. Another piece of feedback here is once you fully masterwork an item, you put all the effort to make it, as good as it can be. You notice the difference in your inventory. There's an icon for it, but you won't notice it if you throw it on the ground. It looks exactly the same. If you accidentally throw it on the ground for some reason, if you control click and throw it on the ground, then you probably want some way to indicate that it's a masterworked item, because you probably don't want to be throwing that away. Similar feedback here. It's less confusing and it's more direct than the old system. I think more people will like it than not. I just don't understand. How am I going to be excited to click upgrade 20 times? I mean, I get that clicking upgrade and getting stronger is a good feeling. I mean, that's what you do in Hollow Knight, right? In Hollow Knight, you get your little needle and you upgrade it 3 times. And that's what you get. Problem is it's very, very hard to get those upgrades, and each one of those upgrades is a pretty outrageous damage increase. I think the first one takes you from 5 damage to 9. So that's significant. But the feedback that I would have for the team is, what ideas do you have to make masterworking exciting, or something at stake, or yada, yada, yada? It's just like tempering. It'll just be something that I just do to my items and we move on with our lives. Then we did the tower. The tower felt very similar to the pit to me. I kept asking people who were playing it, tell me what you think is different. People keep memeing. They say that the pit goes down, the tower goes up. They don't have any rewards for doing the tower other than getting on the leaderboards. But I think someone told me that they said in one of the interviews that there will be rewards for doing it. So if there aren't any rewards, most people are going to hate the tower. But I think they're coming. The tower could feel different at the highest levels if the monsters have different AI. I think they said something to the effect of they want it to feel more like Greater Rifts, and Greater Rifts at their highest level were very, very strategic. Kite these monsters, group them up, burn them down with area damage, kite them to the pylons, use the pylons, burn them down to spawn a second pylon, conduit down the 6 elites, go next floor, spawn the power pylon, kill the boss, get rank 1, right? They do have like the certain like amount of pylons here, but the issue, even if they built it into Diablo 4, and even at the higher levels, even if this was successfully built by Blizzard, I don't really understand how Diablo 4 skills are going to allow us to see this or take advantage of it. For example, in Diablo 3, with the pull spear and the stomping, that truly manipulates all of the enemies into a very different way to allow you to do 10x or higher more damage. And like the monk had cyclone strike or different things like that. I don't know, like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Diablo 4 is going to give us the tools to take advantage of such a playstyle. It's hard for me to see this. Another thing is area damage, which was loved and hated both. So not sure we should add area damage into the game, not to mention the lag. But that also outrageously benefited that playstyle of you manipulating where the monsters are. Might have some advantages here, of course. You do more damage in a group, but it's not exactly the same. So I think most people never reach this level of Diablo 4 anyway. And I think it just feels very similar to the pit. It kind of makes me wonder, why do we have the tower and the pit? But one thing for me, and I played this when I was way too strong. I only got to pit or tower 45, which is a little bit higher than Torment 3, I believe. But I am constantly going backwards to pick up the orbs. Is there ever a situation where we don't want them? And this might not be an issue at the highest levels, because the highest levels might make the monsters so unbelievably difficult that you're not going to be able to run forward 5 screens anyway. So maybe it's not an issue there. But most people will play the tower where they just plow it. So the orbs are constantly behind me. So that might be something for Blizzard to consider. All right, the capstones. For me, the capstones, along with the difficulty, was probably the biggest win of the patch. I ran 2 of them, and I actually thought they were pretty cool. Here's what I was looking for. Does the capstone dungeon feel different than a regular dungeon? For me, the answer was yes. It had 3 different floors. It had a mechanic to it, but the mechanic to it was kind of exactly right. It wasn't super insanely annoying and tedious, but it did make me interact with it to beat it, just to clear it, I guess. And while I'm doing the mechanic, I am still fighting. So I think all those things together, like I call it the hotel ice machines. Did you ever go on a vacation with your family, stay in a shitty hotel, and the first thing you do is you go into your hotel room, you jump on the bed until your parents yell at you, and then you get the little bucket with the little plastic liner, and then you run out and you go to the ice machine and you fill up the bucket. Then you go to the vending machine down the other side of the hall and you get like a Pepsi and a Snickers, and then you go back and jump on the bed, yada yada yada, some more. They just put those hotel ice machines all over the capstone, but it's burning you to death. So it kind of reminded me of being a kid and going to the hotel ice machines. It is nice to have milestones, and I think not only the seasonal journey progression and unlocking certain things, but also getting your skill points is locked behind it. I thought this was done fairly well. In general, I like these milestones that we're achieving. Then I went in with a very shitty geared level 23 Necro, and every capstone dungeon has a level that it recommends that you be at. The lowest one is 30. And it has a difficulty by it, which I'm assuming fixes the difficulty of that capstone. So the first one is 30 and hard. That's what she said. So required level 30, and the difficulty you're going to play on it, no matter what, is hard difficulty. So I was like, can I go in with a level 23 Necro with absolute garbage gear, at nothing, and can I beat it? And the answer is yes, I beat it. However, it took me like 45 minutes. It was very difficult. And it was difficult kind of in both ways. It took forever. And the damage that some of the enemies were doing to me, specifically the non-bosses, just getting swarmed by the elites, was actually pretty challenging. And chat's like, oh my god, Rax, just leave and power up and come back. No, we're testing it. I want to see if they actually made this dungeon for level 30 players on hard difficulty. And walking in at level 23 with shit gear is absolutely not a good idea. You can do it, but it's a huge waste of your time, which I honestly think is good tuning by them. That's good design. Nice. So then I went back at level 30. I got my golem. I didn't have my golem either. I didn't have my class mechanic. Got my golem. Got to level 30. Put on some more level 30 yellows. And then it felt about right. It was, again, I probably did it at least 3 times faster, maybe 15 minutes. However, I do have one piece of feedback. When I got to the 2 different bosses in the capstone dungeon, they had a shitload of HP. And I mean a shitload. To the point where I was just standing there, letting my skeletons and letting me just wail on him for minutes and minutes and minutes. The bosses had no opportunity to kill me. They would never kill me. They're just not going to kill me. So my feedback here would be not to nerf their HP a lot. I think you should maybe nerf their HP slightly, because when you get to this point, you're kind of weak. Unless you really over level or you over gear or you have some good legendary powers. If you're just attacking them with yellows, like you will probably have, at least in the first one, it's a slog, man. It's just sitting there for minutes and minutes and minutes, just wailing on them, waiting for them to die. But we didn't come this far to tell them to make Diablo 4 a game to actually play, just to tell them to nerf everything. So I think maybe another change you should do is you should make their attacks more deadly. You don't need to make everything insta one-shot you. People are going to hate that. We don't need it to be uber Lilith. But if it were me, my feedback to you is I think the HP should come down a little bit. And I think the danger level of their attacks should go up a little bit. Overall, I actually think the capstones will be one of the only things, sad to say, one of the only things I will actually feel good about doing in Diablo 4. When I'm finally strong enough to go do it, and I clear it, I've unlocked more game modes, I unlocked more skill points, I advanced my season progression, the bosses drop pretty good loot. Well, this is actually an opportunity, couple opportunities, because you put 5 of them in the game, 5 opportunities for a feels good moment that you actually did something in Diablo 4. Nice. I mean, we need stuff like this. The seasonal theme, I took a look at it. It looks like it buffs different game modes instead of yourself, kind of. So to me, it was kind of like powers for the game modes instead of us. I don't know, be honest, it just kind of felt like powers. It's not literally powers, but it felt like powers for Helltide or powers for Nightmare Dungeons or whatever the 4 game modes were. One of them was the Overworld. So there is a mechanic here where you can sanctify your item. It's essentially, if you played PoE, it's kind of like not a Chaos Orb. It's like a Val Orb, where you just YOLO and you try to unpredictably modify it, and it can like potentially brick your item. And so there's a big debate going on about, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? So since this mechanic is literally essentially in Path of Exile 1, let's talk about it from the Path of Exile perspective first, and then ask ourselves the question for Diablo 4. So in Path of Exile, if you don't know, there's a Val Orb. It modifies an item unpredictably. They're pretty common, but the outcomes of what this Val Orb could do could go from completely bricking something and make it useless, or it could make it the greatest thing you've ever seen in your life. So with all of the common things in Path of Exile 1, like your maps or like your shitty or mid-tier items that you're just going to throw away anyway, unless they somehow get way better immediately, you just throw a Val Orb on them and just see what happens. And if you get a great item, maybe you can use it for now. And if it bricks, it doesn't really matter. You throw it away. However, the biggest of Giga Chads at the end of the league want to Val Orb their very, very best items to try to turn them into items that you would only dream of having, right? And the thing to understand here is a Val Orb is optional, right? Most people in the end game on their best gear don't Val it because it's a huge risk and you're usually going to lose and you're going to be sad. But the option is there. It's a decision that you are making. Do you want to use it or not? And when you maybe you play for a week or two and you're sick of the league and you're going to quit, you might Val Orb all your gear just to see could you hit the miracle then, and then maybe you play for another week if you hit the greatest upgrade on your bow or whatever. But the important thing to understand here is it's a decision that you have to make. And it's a risk that you have to take. So people are saying, well, I just bricked my Ring of the Starless Skies. But what about all the leagues where you find multiple Ring of the Starless Skies? Well, now you can work on Masterworking both of them, and then you can try Sanctifying or Val Orbing it and see if you can make one of them the ultimate Ring of the Starless Skies. So I think if people go in with the mindset that a mechanic doesn't have to be universally used by everybody on every single item. Sanctifying, if it's like a Val Orb, could be like a choice. And depending upon, if you find two really great pairs of pants, well, sanctify one of them. See if you make it the greatest thing ever. In general, when you think about it like that, I think actually it just makes the game a lot better. There is some fear of missing out here about, well, this guy has sanctified everything and I don't have sanctified everything because I don't have two Ring of the Starless Skies, so I can't YOLO it. Yes, but you're talking about like the super, super Giga Chads, right? The people who play the game all day long, yada, 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 are eventually going to, take these risks, so, I mean, it's a counterpoint, but in general, if you want my opinion, I think stuff like this is exactly needed to counterbalance stuff like this. You just walk up, tempering, slap it on, move on. Masterworking, click upgrade 20 times, then click upgrade one more time and move on. I mean, guys, we need some excitement in our lives here. My final thoughts. How does this all culminate into the update for December? I think Diablo 4 is in a very similar situation in terms of most of the people who follow its content or follow its upgrades. It's still improving, but I don't think anything here is earth-shattering. I don't think anybody is going to be like, yes, I can't wait to log in December and get my ass kicked on level 1 until I get my skill points to do my Capstone dungeon. It's kind of fun for me, but probably not that fun for most other people. So all the haters, I don't expect them to come back for the changes that we've seen. I do think that this is better work than what we've seen in the last 6 months. I will also admit, kind of plainly, redoing things over and over and over that we've already had in the game is really not exciting, even if they get it right. We started with Capstones, and then they removed them, and now they're back. I would prefer it the way that they have it now. Out of the 3 iterations, it's true. but it's kind of hard to get exciting for that. The tower added, supposed to be like greater rifts. That's cool, but it feels very similar to the pit. So if you don't like the pit, I don't know how you're going to magically start liking the tower. The seasonal theme, I mean, the sanctifying will be a fun like end game thing to YOLO some things. That's fun for me. Won't be fun for everybody. And I think the buffing the different game modes from what I saw doesn't sound too great. Like, just again, comparison is the thief of joy. Is that the saying? But just to give you an example, just to compare, Path of Exile 2's last league added Abyss, an entirely new mechanic that impacts all maps. That gives you a shitload of monsters to fight. It gives you a ton of different rewards. That unlocks an entirely new crafting system for the game. It also unlocked a couple new pinnacle bosses. By the way, I didn't get to try Asmodan. Like, that compared to adding powers to Helltide is it's tough when you compare them. It's tough. Anyway, for me personally, I really haven't been playing Diablo 4 for almost the better part of a year. I think I will log in and try it in December. I will probably do a journey where I play for a couple of days and I push my character as far as I can and give it the good old Boy Scout try. I don't hate Blizzard. I don't hate Diablo. I wish Diablo would rise back to power. And we know the expansion is coming. I know people have different opinions on that. People will never give Blizzard another dime. They let me know all the time in my stream, I ain't never buying that no matter what. I hear you. I understand. There's some people kind of on the fence for it. Maybe this is setting up a really good expansion for us. We'll see. Yeah, so I guess my final thoughts would be, not surprising, I think Diablo 4 is moving in the right direction. I think instead of moving in the right direction at a sloth's pace, maybe we have upgraded to a baby rabbit's pace. I don't know, a little bit faster. I think the haters are going to stay right where they are. I don't think they're coming back for this. And I'll give it a full try when it launches in December and see how it goes. It is what it is, guys. If you have an opinion on it, drop a comment down below. I will read them. Rocket Money, thanks for sponsoring the video. I actually do like Rocket Money. I didn't even have to say that. I only had to put the ad at the beginning, but I actually do like Rocket Money, so try it if you want to. Yeah. A lot more is coming. Path of Exile 1 in 10 days. God, I like that game. There's a big reveal in 2 days for I think they're literally calling it an expansion. Massive update to the game, and they've already added a lot of quality of life. I think you should try Path of Exile. If you don't like that game, you're making a mistake. The game's great. Thank you so much, guys. See you in the next one.